Hi there, this is James Swanwick, and you're listening to the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle Podcast, where you learn how to take back control over alcohol and live a life of health, wealth, love, and happiness. Welcome to the show. James Swanwick here. Today we are speaking with a gentleman who is 126 days alcohol-free. He is a graduated client of our 90-day stop drinking process, which is called Project 90. His name is Robert Walsh. He is a wholesale distribution company owner in Dublin, Ohio. And today we're going to be talking about how Robert went from having a lot of anxiety, excuse me, to I guess what he shared previously has been maybe a challenging relationship with his daughter, in the sense that she knew that he was drinking, to where he is today, 126 days later, where he stopped drinking. His relationship with his daughter is now noticeably better. And he says he couldn't be happier. So let's dig in and get the details. Robert Walsh, welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Robert.
Well, I grew up in Columbus area. Dublin's a suburb of Columbus, Ohio. And went to Oklahoma for a little bit of time. I worked at Worthington Industries, which is a large cylinder manufacturer, I believe the largest on the planet. So I worked there for 17 years. Very, very nice company to work for. They paid for my education. And then we got an opportunity to start the distribution company in 1996. But we were in the right place at the right time. It worked out well. And then, from that point forward, you have to, take care of it and move forward. So that's where I'm at right now.
So it's a family business. That's right. It's a family business that you've had since 96.
Correct.
And what is it that it does? I know I said a wholesale distribution. What do you distribute?
We distribute valves and fittings for LP gas cylinders, propane cylinders. So like your gas grill has probably a 20-pounder. The valve that goes in that, forklift cylinders, 100-pounders that, like, 100-pounder would be used on street vendors use them. And then I'm trying right now to move into Mexico. Mexico uses millions of propane tanks. They don't have the infrastructure like the US with natural gas lines. So they use usually 30-kilo tanks. And there's a number of them. So I want to try to move into that market. And then I have some contacts with Worthington's. We also rep the valve account with our supplier to Worthington, but then Ramon Fernandez is the Latin American sales manager at Worthington, and I'm working with him on moving into South America as well. So I hope I can get that accomplished.
Got it. So you've had this now in the family for almost what does that make it now? Almost 30 years.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And I would imagine that a family business has its challenges, like family businesses do, I guess, like families do, even without the business. Have you had a challenging time with your father being the son and being the heir to the company?
I think our biggest challenge was moving into the 21st century with remote access and things like that. So I have Splash Top on my laptop, and wherever I go, I can access my desktop at the office, and then, I can forward the phone calls to my cell phone, things like that.
But your dad can't. Is that what you're going to say? But your dad cannot?
What he can't. He doesn't like it. He still uses a fax machine, if that tells you anything.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, as it relates to our conversation here, what have been your drinking habits over the years up until, excuse me, up until, of course, about 4 or so months ago when you stopped drinking?
Well, I called myself Norm from Cheers, if you're familiar with the TV show, where everybody knows who you are and they know what you're drinking, right? When you walk in the door. But most a happy hour drinker. It was a more of a, I think, a social thing for me, but it turned into part of my daily routine. On the way, 5 o'clock was, you've heard the song, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. um, that was a deal. I never really had alcohol at the house. I wasn't a beer drinker. It was top shelf bourbons for me. So it was 4 or 5 days a week. Stopped at the sports bar that's close to my house. My friend owned it. So yeah, it was a bad habit. it, 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 it just became part of my daily routine.
And if you're 61, I would imagine you probably started drinking in your late teens. So that's, it's a good 45-year drinking career. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's pretty accurate. I did quit drinking for 5 years. Was before I searched you out. So that 5 year period ended when I was on a business trip, and I was fascinated with the bourbon, the new bourbon fad, I'll call it, because alcohol people tend to, I mean, for a while it was single malt scotches, and then it went to, vodkas, and then now it's bourbons, and I'm sure it'll move to tequilas if it hadn't already gone in that direction. So I stopped for 5 years, but I ordered a Angel's Envy, and then a couple months later, I was, I was back to being Norm. So I saw your video on YouTube, and I didn't skip it. So, the rest is history, so to speak, right? I clicked on the link, and here I am now, 126 days. So I couldn't be happier.
Where does the happiness come from? I referenced your relationship with your daughter. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. My daughter and I are close. I got divorced when she was 2, and she stayed with me. I don't need to go into too much detail why she didn't see her mother that much. I don't really want to point fingers at her. But yeah, so that she's 20 now, so we're talking about 18 years. We did everything together. I had season tickets to the Columbus Blue Jackets, a local NHL hockey team. Her and I went to almost every game. I would give some away to customers, but yeah, we did a lot of things together. So after the 5 year period of non drinking, which was kind of in her teenage prime years, she she was disappointed. She avoided me, and it hurt. It did. So that was a huge part of the reason I needed a group of people to help me out. So I found your program enticing. So I did some research and decided that this is where I needed to be. But my relationship now is done a complete 180. It's exponentially better. She calls me every day. We've been to New York, and hopefully I'll get to see Alan the next time I go, and Dane, who's part of the group as well. He lives in New Jersey, but he commutes into the city. And we went and saw Wicked on Broadway together. And we're going back to see, well, she wants to see Wicked again. And then we're going to see Tommy, the Who's Tommy, in July. And Dane and I think are going to play golf on Sunday. while her friend from New Jersey comes to the city. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Oh, that's amazing. And if you're listening here on the podcast, if you'd like to see a photo of Robert, our guest today on the podcast, and his daughter, then you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/reviews, and that will take you to our Alcohol Free Lifestyle business profile page. And if you just scroll down from some of the reviews, you'll see Robert Walsh's review there. And Robert uploaded a photo of he and his daughter. There's a photo of him in New York on the recent trip that he just referenced. And then there's also a photo of Robert in Sedona, Arizona, when he was part of our annual Alcohol Free Lifestyle in-person event in January of 2024. So yeah, alcoholfreelifestyle.com/reviews, and you can put a face to the sound, to the voice. So does that mean that when you were drinking, your daughter didn't want to connect with you, but now that you're not drinking, she does? So what were you like or not like when you were drinking, and what are you like or not like now that you're not?
Well, I think I was closed off when I was drinking, and there were most, I don't know, it's tough to describe. Um, I'm a much better person socially when I don't drink. I'm not, I don't have a temper or anything. I think I'm pretty introverted, which is unusual, but when I'm not drinking, I like to talk a lot. So uh, I kind of go in the opposite direction. Um, just my personality changes when I drink. So my daughter didn't like me in that state. You know, alcohol does bad things to you, which I've learned in this program. It's very interesting, you know, with Coach Sarah and Coach V. I know Victoria said this group is filled up with a bunch of people who are highly intelligent and overachievers, and those are the types of people that want to know why. We want to know the answers. So you learn some of those things here, and it's been beneficial. And my daughter just, I told her from the beginning, you know, what I was doing, and she's thrilled. I'm not afraid to tell anybody. Some people might be, but I was just honest. And yeah, so if she texts me or something when we're on a call, um I'll just, or because I turn the sound off on my phone, I turn the ringer off, but if it's buzzing and I look over and it's her, I'll just type in a quick, you know, I'm on a call right now, lady. I'll get back with you at 8:30 or whenever the call's over. She's on her way home now from Tuscaloosa.
How old is your daughter?
20.
I mean, it's pretty remarkable that a 20-year-old woman wants to hang out with her 61-year-old father, right? It's pretty remarkable that she's wanting to speak with you every day. That must just feel amazing for you, I would imagine.
It is. She's a pretty special kid. There aren't that many teenagers um, that are huge Broadway musical fans either. Right? Right? She, my ex-wife's mother, her grandmother, took her to New York City when she was, I don't know, she was young, every Thanksgiving, and they would go to the Macy's parade. And Lainey Kate went to see Broadway musicals, and she really, really liked it. So she still does. I mean,
Yeah.
she cheerleader, football cheerleader, and all that. But if I had to give her a choice between um, hanging out with her friends and going to Broadway with me, I think she would choose Broadway. Pretty nice.
Yeah. So your personality has changed from when you were a drinker to now not being a drinker. So what do you think are some of the consequences of you not drinking? Like, how has your personality changed?
I'm I'm more understanding, and I listen better. When you're drinking, you don't pay attention to what the other person's saying. You just want to say what you want to say, and you're narrow-minded. So I'm more open-minded, and I'll listen to what the other person has to say before I make a snap judgment. Those types of things. I would never mean to anybody. I wouldn't listen. I would say what I wanted to say. It was all on my side, and you're stubborn to a fault. So those types of things.
Seems like you're now responsive versus previously when you were reactive.
I would say that's true. Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do a definition of reactive versus responsive. I'll just Google it right now. And I know that this is one of the things that we coach folks on in Project 90, our Stop Drinking community. Let's have a look here. Responsive versus reactive leadership. I'm just doing a Google search here. So the reactive individual makes a snap judgment. The responsive individual considers the whole picture framed, excuse me, considers the whole picture framed against the company's values, strategies, and tactics. So someone who is reactive is stuck in their emotions. They let their emotions get the better of them. In the heat of the moment, something comes out of their mouths, and then a split second later, they're beating themselves up inside and regretting what they've just said or the action that they've taken. Reactive behavior is immediate and occurs without conscious thought, like a knee-jerk reaction. It's often driven by emotion, where you may find yourself lashing out, shutting down, or fighting. Typically, you behave like a victim of events and are not fully in control. So I'm just reading here from a Google article. Have you recognized that you've been like that sometimes, Robert?
Yes. Absolutely. I would agree with that. Not all the time, but I would, yeah, when I was, if I had a couple neat bourbons, I would behave exactly like that.
Who with? Who would you be reactive with? Have you got an example or an anecdote of when you identified you being reactive?
Oh, I probably did it with my daughter, depending on what the circumstance was. Um, she's a really, really good student, but if I got on her for like a grade or something, or why didn't you do this or that? Sometimes not really. Well, I hate to say I was short with our warehouse manager, and he's been with the company for a long, long time. In fact, he's probably going to end up being a partner with me. But yeah, I wish I wouldn't have done it. You say something, and then not necessarily at that moment, but the next day you wake up and you're like, man, I wish I hadn't have said that, or I hadn't behaved that way. So sometimes with my mother, if she asks rhetorical questions, and she's in her 80s, so I need to be more patient and understand that there are circumstances that dictate that I should be way more patient and understanding of the other person's situation.
Well, let's read the definition of responsive, at least on this Google article. It says, on the other hand, people who are responsive rather than reactive are generally calm. They are easygoing and they don't get stressed easily. They take time to think things through, are generally good at planning and looking ahead. They are considered with their responses. They have empathy. Most importantly, they don't take things personally. They can look objectively at situations and not get caught in the emotion of it. They can take ownership, responsibility, and accountability for all the good and not so good things that occur in their lives. They generally have a positive outlook on life, have great relationships, and are well liked. So what comes up for you when I read the definition of responsive?
Well, I believe in the last 126 days, I've probably really turned the corner. It's amazing, well, what you can do when you're more focused and you don't have a drug affecting your behavior. Um, I know people have been manipulating their mental state for thousands of years, but when you step back and you understand that, I mean, you give it up the alcohol, but I didn't know a lot about what alcohol did to your brain. I just thought it made you behave poorly. I didn't know that it was that powerful. We learned a lot about dopamine and the different levels of, I want to say, like, I was shocked that a bourbon or two would give me a bigger dopamine hit than taking my daughter to a World Series game, like 10 times more. And I was, I was like, wow. Um, so I'm super happy. People notice as well. My mother notices, my daughter notices, my sister, my brother doesn't drink either. So I think part of that, um, people don't want to be around you when you're drinking, and that hurt my feelings. I didn't feel good, and I, you know, I felt like I had no choice. It was something that I had to do. It was necessary, and I'm not going to go back there again. Like I said, I didn't drink for 5 years. I'm not sure why I picked that bourbon up, but I did. So there's really no sense in going backwards and beat myself up over it. Another thing I've learned in this program is there's not much you can do about the past. You need to move forward. So, and we're reading, letting go, and learning a lot of new things. So, and even at 61, I guess you can teach an old dog new tricks after all, huh?
An older dog, not an old dog, just an older one.
Right.
You referenced at the beginning that you were drinking top shelf bourbon, single malt scotch.
I did drink single malt scotches. Never liked vodkas when that craze was in. But part of the reason I picked up the bourbon was that it seems like different alcohols run in cycles, and celebrities are promoting different alcohols. So during the single malt Scotch era, I don't know who, somebody had one. I don't know who it was. Matthew McConaughey's has a bourbon, and I think I don't know who now has a tequila. I think The Rock has one. So that they put some celebrity out there, and like, and tequila is going to be the new gig, and they always put somebody. So then bourbons got really popular, and I was like, "What's the big deal over bourbon?" I Before the bourbons, I was more of a tequila drinker because we have a place in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and we would go down there for a month at a time. So I drank tequila, but then, and if you get a really, really nice and extra new tequilas or taste like whiskey, I guess they age them in oak barrels. But so yeah, I had one. I was out to dinner, and I didn't think anything about it. I didn't really think it was going to be that big of a deal. And then so you have the one and nothing bad happens. So the next time you go, you'll say, well, okay, well, I'll have another one. And then before you know it, you're norm again, and your life goes to hell in a handbasket. Um, I functioned okay, but never really felt good. Does that make sense to you? I even at work, we still did okay, but I didn't. On my recent trip, I just went to uh, Charlotte, North Carolina. It's International Expo, and it's the largest show in our industry for the year. And I hadn't been in a decade because I just didn't care. I was apathetic. So I went to Charlotte this year after joining the program, and I met 3 or 4 people, two of which are the South America deal, and the other in Portugal. And then I'm working on a project with a company in Istanbul. So, you go from being complacent and satisfied to potentially um, hitting Europe and South America in a short period of time. I hope it works out. I don't see any reason why it can't. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. It's exciting. It's fun. I mean, it's challenging, and I guess you're always semi afraid, I guess, of the outcome because you want to succeed and grab a hold of the revenue. But it's a lot more fun. My job is so much more fun now than it used to be. It used to be a job. Now it's part of my life. I don't know. Does that make sense at all?
Yes. What was something profound that you learned inside of the 90-day stop drinking process that you were unaware of before? You did just briefly reference you didn't realize how damaging alcohol was, but was there something that you learned about yourself or something in particular that was profound for you during your 90 days with us?
Well, one thing that stuck with me was that you mentioned it, and it was either, I think it was on a call. It was either on a call or in one of the lessons that there's a gap. It was like 15 to 20 minutes, like when we had cravings, right? If you had a craving or you felt like having a drink, that there was a 15 to 20 minutes and then it would go away. And I had a day like that. And I just kept telling myself, 15, 20 minutes, it'll go away. You have to, go for a walk, do whatever. That was huge. The other one that stuck with me and I would get emotional about was a call with Sarah, and where she was explaining some of the negative effects of how alcohol affects your brain, and that going back to drinking or sticking with it wasn't, she said, it's not your fault. And I had a hard time dealing with that. I mean, you blame yourself big time for, you know, um, what I would consider a mistake. And that stuck with me. It's not your fault. And I'm still having a hard time. I have to work on that, I suppose. But we're getting there slowly but surely. That's why, I committed to this for the whole year from day one. I didn't wait until the end of the 90 days. We'll join from the beginning because I had stopped for 5 years. And it wasn't I knew I could do 90 days. That wasn't a challenge really, like, because I quit for 5 years. So it was more of a um, improving my life decision, which is exactly what this program does. I mean, it's not just about secession from alcohol, which is one of the best things about it. It's about endless possibilities.
Endless possibilities. I like that. Did it feel like there were restricted possibilities when you were in a different phase of life, and now it feels like there are endless possibilities?
Yes, you have a different perspective, and you stay, you finish the call, you send the email, you do the one extra thing every day, when before it's you were dying to get out of the office or finish the day, so you could go see your friends at the dub pub. And now, uh, I'll make the extra call. I'll send the extra email. I'll take some time to do a little extra research on where I think we can go to next. So it's it's fun. It's enjoyable. Work goes from being mandatory to voluntary.
Mm, yeah. So the family business felt mandatory and now it feels voluntary. So now you're free to behave and act in a way that feels really nourishing for you.
It is. It gives you a great deal of satisfaction and and sense of accomplishment. Um, when you when you start a project and it's successful, and we haven't got to the end of these two projects, but I feel confident that we'll succeed. I do have friends in Mexico that I would probably hire or at minimum take with me to Mexico City. I want to see Teotihuacan. That's kind of a bucket list item that I want to go see. So um, Amex Gas is in Mexico City, and Teotihuacan is right outside Mexico City. So we could combine the two. But my Spanish isn't nearly good enough to go negotiate with, unless they speak English, which 90% of them do. But yeah, and I'm also looking forward to any possible trips. The Grand Hall, who we represent, their general manager promised me a trip to Taipei, and my brother actually lived in Taipei for a while, and he owes me a trip to Taipei. It takes about as long though to get there as it takes to get to your place in Australia. That's at 22 hours to get to Taiwan.
Hi, this is James Swanwick, and we're taking applications for our 90-day and 1-year stop drinking programs. Clients are mostly executives, entrepreneurs, and investors who have tried unsuccessfully and repeatedly to stop drinking but remain stuck in a frustrating cycle of stop-start, stop-start. Our programs are not AA, which has a reported 7% success rate. Our programs are not rehab, which has a reported 6% success rate. Our 90-day and 1-year programs involve a safe, fun, virtual community of high achievers with a process that boasts an incredible 92% success rate of clients reaching at least 90 consecutive days alcohol-free. We use the latest neuroscience and personal development processes to help rewire clients' brains around alcohol and minimize its importance in their lives. We will show you how to powerfully socialize with friends, family, and colleagues, what to say and how to say it so people don't mistakenly think that you're an alcoholic or have a problem, and how to eliminate the temptation of returning to constant drinking so you can finally break the stop-start cycle. To ensure client success, Project 90 can only accept 15 new clients each month. Some of those happy clients include John Keltner from California, who said, "I've lost 10 pounds." Susie Vaughan, a real estate broker in Tennessee, who said, "I've generated 20% more leads." Jessica Gaines-Jarbo from Kentucky, who says, "I've now got joy, focus, presence, and clarity." And Joe Worley from Michigan, who says, "My wife has the real Joe back." If you're an executive, entrepreneur, or investor who's sick of the stop-start cycle and the damaging effects alcohol has on your health, happiness, and family, and you're ready to regain confidence, become more present with your spouse and children, reduce stress, anxiety, and irritability, sleep better, increase focus and productivity, and feel better quickly, you're invited to apply to become a Project 90 client. Applicants can apply for an introductory interview by visiting alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. There's a link in the show notes which you can just click, but that link is alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. Application interviews are limited and are conducted on a first-come, first-served basis. If there are no remaining interview times available, wait a few weeks and try again. Let's get back to the show. So you're now continuing the journey with us. You've left our Project 90 program and now you've joined our Beyond 90 community and program. So has there been a mindset shift from you from day 90 to where you are today, at least as we're recording this, which is on day 126? Like, do you see it as the end of one part and the start of another? Excuse me. I'm sorry, listeners. I've been a little bit under the weather, so I'm sorry for the little coughs and sneezes here. Did you get that question, Robert?
I did. I kind of equate it to a book, right? So the first 90 days is like the first chapter in the book. So I've turned the page and I'm in the next chapter now. So the P90 program is outstanding, but I think the best way to describe it for me was if you're reading a really good like Dan Brown novel, you get to the end of the chapter and you're dying to see what happens next. So instead of putting the book down and going to sleep, you just turn the page and keep going. That's how I feel about this AFL program that you all started.
Oh, that's beautiful. And yeah, to the listener, if you want to see Robert talk a little bit more about his experience, you can also go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com. Don't have to add the /reviews to the end of the URL. And if you scroll down on our website there, you'll see a video with Robert amongst 4 or 5 other of our clients, filmed in January 2024 in Sedona, Arizona at our annual event. And you can just see Robert sharing a little bit more on camera about his experience. I love that. So a Dan Brown novel, huh? So it's all getting very exciting. We don't know where the story's going, but it's a page turner is how it feels. Is that right?
Correct. That's how I describe it.
I love it. And we've got some great characters in there as well. We've got your 20-year-old daughter. We've got a fellow Beyond 90 member, Dane, who you might be playing golf with, as I understand it, this weekend.
Not this weekend. It won't be until July. And then I believe Alan, who was also in P90, he works for Google. He lives in Manhattan, so perhaps we'll get to see him as well. But I plan on Dane and I'm really fond of everybody in the group, to be honest. And I was fortunate enough to make the trip to Sedona early on in this process, and I feel very fortunate that I got that email, and fortunately I have reasons to go to almost any state we sell our products in every state in the United States, parts of Canada. Um, Actually, one heister in Dublin, Ireland. My dad's grandparents are from Ireland, so um, it's a pretty good deal. Yeah.
And then you'll be coming to our 2025 event, possibly in Medellin, Colombia, right? In January. You're planning on coming to that?
I I already have reservations at the hotel.
There you go. Well played, sir. Well played. And of course, Christina is another client that is based in Manhattan, who's a carriage driver in
Oh, that's
Central
right.
Park.
I am gonna get a hold of her, and Laney Kate and I'll definitely go see her.
Mm. Amazing. Well, I'm so happy that the last 126 days have been so enjoyable for you and that your life is a page turner. Absolutely. It seems like you are living a very adventurous life, traveling around with great connection with your daughter, great connection with new friends, and ready to take over the family business, not out of obligation, but maybe just out of joy and fulfillment. At least that's my impression.
That's an accurate description. I agree with that. It's exciting. Even at age 60, it's enlightening. The possibilities when well, you just feel better in general. I used to fear evenings, um, because I knew I had to get up early in the morning. I would fear the morning, and I didn't sleep well. I would go to bed earlier, but I wouldn't feel rested. Now I go to bed later at night, but I sleep for an entire 7 hours.
Wow.
So if I watch a ball game or something and it ends at 10, I can go to sleep. I'll be up at 5, but I feel like $1 million. When I was drinking, you'd wake up at 2, then I'd panic, then I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep. So um, it's just immensely better. My golf game's way better. I don't know if I mentioned that. I I love to play golf. It's my favorite hobby, and the you cannot golf if you drink. I did. I wouldn't drink a lot on a golf course, but my golf teachers told me, he said, um, 6 beers, and a lot of people drink beer on a golf course. I mean, ironically, my daughter's the beverage cart girl at the golf club where I play. But 6 beers will negatively affect your round by 8 to 10 strokes.
Mm,
And
that's a lot. That's a lot.
it is 8 to 10. Yeah, especially if you're a single
Mhm.
digit, 8 shots is, you go from, 80 to 90, 8 to 10. And it's because your hand-eye coordination gets messed up, right? You can I
There's
love to.
a there's a fellow client of yours, Steve Wilt, who spoke at our event in January. For the listener, if you'd like to learn about Steve Wilt, he's a 50-something financial services manager out of Akron, Ohio, and you can see his story at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/Steve Wilt. Steve Wilt. And he said that as a result of stopping drinking, his golf game has just improved out of sight. Like, didn't take any more lessons, didn't work on his swing, didn't do anything else except just stop drinking, and he's shaved shots off his rounds. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me at all. And I met Steve, and he does live in Akron, and he's a member at Firestone Country Club, and I plan on calling him shortly. He invited me up there. I was like, if I don't know if any of the listeners are golfers, Firestone's a pristine golf course where they used to have the World Golf Championship, and they moved it from there now, I believe. But it's a it is a beautiful, beautiful place, and it's very difficult track. But so I was excited when I met him. Uh, but yeah, he's right. And you have to be good at anything. You have to practice, right? So my golf instructor always told me to practice with a purpose, right? So when I go practice my game now, I'm working on something, but you're practicing with a purpose instead of it just going and hitting 200 golf balls. You focus on something that you've learned and then you apply it to your game. So I think Nick Saban, I think there might be a video out with Nick Saban compares life to golf, in that you'd have to watch it. I believe it was Nick Saban. So you're focusing on the one hole or your game, and if you have a bad hole, it might have been something out of your control. You might have made a mistake, but you have to put it behind you and focus on the next shot. So it's an interesting metaphor, I suppose, golf in life, right? Um, it takes a lot of work to be good at it, and sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes things pop up that are unexpected, and you have to deal with it and and move forward. You can't harp on things that negative things that have happened to you. The book we're reading now, Letting Go, is very interesting. David What Hawkins. It's pretty deep. I may have to read it 4 or 5 times to totally grasp it. Um, but I'm thrilled that we're doing it. And it's that Tuesday night is here's the other thing about this program. I look forward to it. Like Saturday mornings, it's a hybrid call, so there's a lot of people on there, and then Sunday fun days, and just I believe it was yesterday. I I sent Sarah a message and I said, could we? I was thinking, could we have like a free association day where people just chat amongst each other? And then I checked my calendar, and it was community connection night. Brilliant. I was like, that is fantastic. I was overjoyed that, and I don't know who came up with that idea, but it was a great idea. And I think she asked at the end if we would be in favor of having more of them, and I said, yeah, absolutely. Um, when you're in a program with people, I mean, I was lucky enough to meet a lot of people in person, but you become emotionally attached to them. So, you're accountable to the group, and I think you become friends. So it's fun to get on. I called them Saturday morning cartoons, because I remember when I was a kid, cartoons weren't on during the week. You had to wait till Saturday morning, right? And then you got to watch cartoons, and then you had to wait a whole week. It's not like today, you flip on the Disney Channel and nonstop watch cartoons for 24 hours. So yeah, I like it, and the book night's really fun. And the community connection was just outstanding. That was a really great idea.
Thank you. Yeah, Robert's referring to coaching calls that we put on for our clients inside of Project 90, Beyond 90, and our other program, Leadership. We had a community connection call the other night for 90 minutes where we invited all the clients just to come and have fun. We weren't coaching them on how to stop drinking. We weren't coaching them on leadership or conscious communication or anything. We just said, let's have some fun and get to know each other. And it seems like it was a big hit. And I'm thrilled that you're finding so many personal connections out of the process. It's not just about learning how to stop drinking alcohol. In fact, once you complete your 90 days, you realize that it was really not about quitting alcohol. It was about all the other things in your life that you were maybe procrastinating on or suppressing or ignoring, that you now get to face, accomplish, do, be. and live a life of health, wealth, love, and happiness. And you've certainly been doing that, Robert. And I appreciate you for your support of other clients, for being so engaged. And I acknowledge you for the journey that you're on. Keep up the great momentum, sir. And thank you so much for being here and sharing some time with us on today's episode.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Alcohol Free Lifestyle podcast. I want to load you up with some free stuff right now. So if you want to go to jamesswanwick.com/guide, I will send you my Quit Alcohol Guide, which has helped six-figure entrepreneurs and top professionals reduce or quit drinking. You can also text the word Quit Guide to the number 44222 if you're in the US, of course. It doesn't really work anywhere outside of the US, but if you're in the US on your mobile phone and you'd like that guide, text the word Quit Guide to the number 44222, or you can go to jamesswanwick.com/guide. If you'd like to schedule a free 15-minute call with one of my top coaches, just an exploratory call to see if or how we can help you, then you can go to jamesswanwick.com/schedule, or you can text the word Project 90 to the number 44222 if you're listening in the US on a mobile phone. That's jamesswanwick.com/schedule, or you can text the word Project 90, that's one word, Project 90, to the number 44222. And finally, a request. Would you please now write a short review of the podcast inside of the Apple Podcast app on your phone or on iTunes on your desktop computer? Would you please give the show 5 stars and write a quick 1 or 2 sentence review? This will help the show get in front of even more listeners, potentially transforming someone's life. You can rate and review the show inside of your Apple Podcast app on your phone or over on iTunes on your desktop. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you next time.